Yeah. Welcome to EMIY. Oh, yeah, you see that. Created to lead by my boy Stephen Brimbry in the building. Right? Two men in the background. I know they want me to cut this stuff off, but, you know, I get fired up and can't stop. So, welcome to EMIY. It is that time of day, that time of afternoon, where you get some solutions, some new information. And when you catch up, we already be mustard. Right. In the building today, of course, we got the queen, Heather Rue, and also we got a special guest. I'm gonna let Heather do the announcing of the special guest because normally special guests get special treatment, so we gonna let Heather do this. So Heather,
thank you, Calvin.
you're welcome. Oh, by the way, LeBron James over 38,000 points for all the haters out there. All right.
Right. Thank you for that. Well, today, joining us in the studio is first our extraordinary engineer, Monique, who takes us through this show process, making sure that we get everything as close to perfect as possible. And also, as our guest joining our EMI team, who is a part of our EMI team, is Miss Trice Herring. She is a part of EMI, so she's been behind the scenes, but we're pulling her in the front to do some more upfront work and be a part of the process of our everyday EMI life. And so we're happy to have her today as we talk about this important topic. And this is National Mentoring Month, so we want to make sure that as we're looking at each other, we see the value of what each one of us brings to the table. And so that wisdom, knowledge, and experience is a gift. And so when you have those people in your life who offer that, you want to make sure you showcase them. And especially this month, you thank them, because those who we see as icons, role models, are also part of our mentoring team. So we are bringing Latrice on to do that and to bring her special sauce to our EMIY podcast today. So thank you and welcome, Latrice.
Thank you for having me. Impromptu visit, I shall say.
So we're going to have a conversation around being older parents with younger kids. So we're talking about older, we're talking about 40 and over, and we're talking about kids under 18. So when you are raising children, either for the first time or you could be seasoned, but when those children are under 18 and some of the parenting challenges and triumphs that we have along the way, and how having younger children also is a benefit to older parents. So we're going to have a series of conversations today around this topic. So I'm going to get started with just talking about the wisdom and experience of older parents. So we can talk about our parents being older, and we can talk about also, from my point of view, it's more about raising a child under 18. And I think that's pretty hilarious since I had my first child. I got pregnant when I was 38. And
Jesus.
And
Yahweh is possible.
And I was not prepared because I had resolved like 10 years prior to that I wasn't going to be able to have any children. And so to have been pregnant by 38, and then my second husband at the time is 13 years older than me. So he was moving into his 50s, well into his 50s, and we had a child on the
Moving,
way.
he had furniture and everything.
Well.
Right.
Go gentle.
Right. And so it has been some life lessons in the process. Some of the greatest wisdom that I've learned in myself is being a parent at that age. I think I learned more in the latter years than I did in my earlier years from watching my parents. And so it's nothing like being a parent and becoming a parent. And when it's your first, I know I have some seasoned people here in the studio with me, but I had no seasoning. It was all raw, no experience, no seasoning. Although I did, consider myself the greatest auntie that ever lived. But yeah, it's different. It's different being the greatest auntie and then trying to parent. So I'm going to shift it and ask Latrice to talk a little bit about her experience, and then we're going to shift to Calvin and see what he has to offer in his experience. So tell us about you, your journey at having a child over 40, and then or raising a child being over 40, and then your experience as a parent.
Well, I would say it's like the third stage of life, seeming as though I have a 31-year-old, soon to be 29-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So yeah, giving birth at 45, to walk into the hospital and they're looking at me like a modern day miracle was different for me. I guess I would say the patience was already there, so that's not something that had to grow on me. But where it is very different this go around is that now I'm raising a son, to where before I raised 2 daughters, and it brought very quickly to me to light what people say that boys and girls are different. I can attest to that, from him being in the womb to now being 6 years old, very, very, very different.
What are some of the differences that you see between raising your daughters and your son?
He came out, I'll say he was in the womb a leader. Like, he knew what he wanted. He wanted to take over my body, so it's like when he didn't want to lay on the left side, that's not what we did. The girls, I feel like even then I was kind of able to coax them to make myself comfortable. Now that he's out the womb, in the world, all of that personality gleans out. And not for my brother Calvin teaching me, hey, that's what men do. We're born leaders. It's like, okay, well, how do I stifle that without, wringing his neck or, getting that out of him, to where the girls, they were very attainable. Usually, you tell them to do something, even if they didn't agree with what you telling them to do, they did it. It's like they would articulate that they didn't want to do it, but yet they would fall in line, to where the son now, he wants to have a discussion. He wants to debate you. He feels that he has the greater of an idea than what you're saying, so sometimes I have to give in and let him walk that through and, let it play out. So, but yeah, that's something that's totally different between the two.
Wow. So we're going to ask Calvin to weigh in a minute, and then we're going to get back, because that's a great conversation to talk about. Calvin, how about you? What's your experience been?
About the same. When Cam was born, I was 39. I was 38 or 39 when Cam was born. So that put me. Cam was born in 2004. Mm-hmm. That put me dead center in the middle of really starting where I am today. So in his whole life, he's seen all of this, right? So I had got to a place of understanding exactly who and what I was, and I thought it was a perfect time to have a child. I wanted a son, and God did that. And for me, you're talking about brilliance, right? So we talk about brilliance. This boy took the test at UAD with no studying or nothing and come out in the top 10%. So when you talk about the time to actually have children, we can debate if it's early or late. Mm-hmm. If it's early, you're married, you own some, you don't know enough. If it's later on, there's a lot more on that seed and in your DNA to add to the child. Mm-hmm. So, but my experience was one of similar to what she do with Kyrie, right? So Cam read by the age of 4. So that was a goal that we had set, and I tell this story all the time because it was his uncle cousin in the backyard when I made the announcement. I'm gonna have Cam gonna read by 4, and he said, "Oh, you ain't gonna do nothing." Right, but he cut. I say, "Hey, my man, this is my son. You know what I mean? Don't tell me what I can't teach mine. You know what I mean?"
Right.
So that was June. Christmas, everybody in the living room, we sipping on cognac, we laughing, talking. I said, "Oh, hey, Cam, come here." He said, "Yeah, Dad." I said, "Pick up one of these and read to your grandparents," while he's sitting over there in the corner. So he just picked up a magazine and started reading at 4, right? I said, "Oh, how old are you?" 4. "Oh, we accomplished the goal." I'm looking right at him. 4. "Oh, you think you. I say, "Hey, man, I'm an uncle too. I can be wrong."
Right.
Just accept that. You know what I mean? People think that you can't be wrong. I can be wrong. You know what I mean? So that was, for me, that was everything.
So what's the difference? You have older children. So what's the difference between Cameron's age and your oldest son's age?
So
Or how about this? Let me rephrase that question. When you had your first son, and the difference between when you had Cameron, the age difference. How old were you?
I was 23 when I had 2 men.
Okay, so you were much younger.
Serving the Lord, though. I was serving the Lord. I was saved.
When he was conceived?
When he was conceived, I was saved, sanctified. I was fighting for everything, right? But I had moved away from foolishness and everything. So when he was conceived, it was just all God. And that's his demeanor. That is his demeanor. He will cut you for Christ.
Amen.
He will cut you for Christ. 2 man is not the one to play with when he comes. He was yelling on the phone the other day about that very thing. He is not the one to play with when it comes to Christ.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about the wisdom of older parents. So, and I'm speaking to parenting when you get to 40, raising your children and rising your adults after 40. So let's talk about what that looks like in terms of wisdom. And I'm saying wisdom, defining wisdom as life lessons, where you find both the problems and the solutions, and you're able to navigate that example and also share that example with others. So when you think about parenting, and both of you had experience prior to 40 and then experience after 40, what are some of the differences that you found? Latrice, can we start with you? The differences and the wisdom that was gained, the knowledge that you gained from the experience of parenting.
I would say one of the biggest things is that physical punishment doesn't always yield positive results. I heard people say it before. I know physical punishment worked for me, but I also know the fear of God and the fear of my mother also worked for me. She could give me the look, and I, knew to, cower back. My daughters, same way. I would give them the look. Now I give my son the look. Yeah, that doesn't work. He gave me the look back like, what? I said what I said. And also I would say the wisdom in the second leg of raising him is also the give and take, like negotiate. It's like that's something I learned early on with him that works. And then it's like choose your battles, I guess, to say. You know, it's like if I'm stressed out and angry and frustrated, that's not going to help the situation. And him being a male child, again, is likened to being in a relationship. Even though he's a young man, he's still he has that older man in him. He's still a man, and he reacts and responds as so. So it's like I have to recognize how I talk to him, how I interact with him, and respect the fact that he actually has a thought. You know, he actually has ideas. He actually has a personality. He's a person, you know, and it's like just interact with him in that manner. And even if I have to table something and step away because of how I feel, come back to it later. But just because I'm the adult and I'm the parent doesn't mean I'm always right.
Wow, that is a wisdom. That was just in our household growing up. You know, it was once the parents spoke, then
Absolutely.
that was it.
Absolutely.
You know, it wasn't no extra conversation. It was no negotiation. Negotiations likely to get you, you know, a shoe in the head or something, you know. And so I think that's one of the things that I took with me in this lesson is I wanted to make sure that he had a voice, that I would listen to what he was saying, that he had the confidence to speak up, and that was just such a big issue for me, to make sure that he had that instilled in him. Now, I thought that was from a point of wisdom when I was, you know, when he was growing up, that, you know, share what you think. What are you thinking about this? And how do you feel about this? Now he gets ahead of you, and he's telling you what he thinks and feels before you even say anything. And so, you know, it's very, very challenging. And I have to go back and I have to remember that you raised him this way. You taught him to have a voice. You wanted him to be able to express himself. You wanted him to be able to tell you what he was thinking and how he was feeling. I think I jumped the gun on that one. Because everything is about how he feels. Everything is about how he thinks. And just trying to step that back enough for him to listen to somebody else is what my challenge is right now. How do you now listen to somebody else and what they're saying? And it's not just about your feelings. It's not just about what you think. But there's also wisdom in listening and working through the knowledge and the experience that somebody else has. So he feels that his thoughts, his words, his experience is so much. And he, even though he has none, he thinks that based on how he feels, that's enough. Like, that's enough for me to make a decision. It's enough for you to take what I say and go along with my words. And so I the wisdom in that lesson for me is that it has to be balanced. I thought that because I was not allowed to say those things as a child, that I wanted to make sure my son had the opportunity to do that. But I didn't temper that with wisdom. And so if somebody had to share it with me, you know, well, you have to teach them both. I wasn't thinking of teaching them both. I was thinking of, you need to have your own voice. And what that looks like now is a lesson learned. So for those of you who are out there and you have a young person and you're starting early, temper with both, that they can listen and that they can receive. And so, and I'm still working through that. And again, that was a hard knock for me to get to that point. And so, and just kind of stepping back and trying to work through that, it's been very frustrating at times to do that, because again, he's so adamant about what he thinks and what he feels that it kind of negates what I'm trying to tell him. And he already knows. I was about to do that. I already know that. Yeah, it's very difficult.
Relearn.
Yes, he has to unlearn some things, and so do I. So, and I can admit, and I do often admit when I'm wrong, or when I will apologize to him for, you know, taking certain. Especially when I'm really angry and he's still talking about his feelings and how he's an expert in driving a car. Like, you don't want me to tell you about driving a car because you already know I was going to do that in the first place. That's his first line of defense. I was already going to do it. I already knew it. I'm like, dude, you never heard this before in your life, and now you already know. Yeah, so trying to help both of us navigate these waters. Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's what happens. Oftentimes, with boys is different. Girls, you could do that, right? With a boy is different. And because emotions is not something that he has to operate from, right? And it's okay when they, because of you constantly saying, well, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, this is how I feel. When you get in a relationship, the woman is going to be like, this is how I don't want to feel. Because it's you coming to the table with way more emotion than I am. And that's difficult. And women are having that struggle throughout right now, even in relationships, because the man grew up with being permissible to say how he really feels and wasn't taught how to control his emotions and make sure that he understands that there's different. Like a lot of parents think we raise the kids the same way. You cannot. Then the boy has to be raised, right? To cultivate a boy seed must be raised by a man. Not saying that you cannot have your son grow up and be one. He's still going to need these tools to be the head, as we talk about. And in that head, as we express a number of ways, in that head has to be decision-making, understanding, because she can't be who she needs to be if he's not who he is. So, and that's what happens, right? The very description that you gave is a million households. Go ahead and express how you feel. Say how you feel. And then when you get in a relationship with a man that you basically have raised this man to be, you get in a relationship with him and you're like, I don't like that. Why you gotta always talk about how you feel? You know what I mean? Like you taking away from me. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of men having this conversation with a woman, and she was like, damn, he more emotional. He talking about all this stuff before I can even get my issues out. Right? And we need to understand that listening to each other, and this is the same thing around what Trice was saying and what you're talking about, listening to a young man speak, guide him, but, he has some responsibility. I don't know who that I was talking to yesterday. I was like, we was at the table for the mentoring program, and I was like, it's okay he learned how to cook. That's good. And she was like, well, it's okay he do the dishes. You know what I mean? Put the stool up to the sink, bust them suds. You know what I mean? It's okay that he want to cook a meal. Go in there. We saw the weirdest sandwich made yesterday. I couldn't even come up with the name for the sandwich. You know what I mean? But, that's what boys do. Like when we was growing up, it was, peanut butter. It was syrup sandwiches and sugar sandwiches. Heat the butter up in the oven, put the sugar on it, put the sandwich together. That's what we was doing. The grilled cheese in the oven with the soft bread, the cheese melt, but not on the pan. Like, we are trying to figure things out. If you answer all those things for me, I become dependent emotionally on you. And this is what has happened to a lot of young men. But being 40 and raising a young man, and you got a lot, like she said, you got a lot of patience. You got a lot more patience than you did when you was a younger parent. You'd be and slapped them. You know what I mean? But, now that you're a little older, to teach them, right? And parenting is a teacher's job. So over 40, that more than anything, we have to teach them, and our children will benefit from that. I mean, that's where I'm at with it.
I think it was key, though, something you said about the DNA, and you and I have had that conversation before. And to me, a light bulb went off. Like what was going on in your life at the time that child was conceived?
Yes, that's a big point.
That when you it's like to think back. If everybody went back to the moment and that time in life, what was I doing? What was I thinking? How was I living when I created this child? And then look at that product.
Yep.
That for me was profound, and you said that. And it's like, even to look at, like what Heather was saying, Kyrie is a product of older parents. Even that makes a difference, again, the DNA, what was going on, so.
Right. Yeah. We did a whole show about that, right? And that perspective, a lot of people, I don't think we really take a look at that, right? We're quick, as I was saying, we're quick to call our children crack babies. Like, wow. And so, they don't look at them. They just off the hook. They crack babies. They weed babies. Heroin babies. They Coke 45 babies. Mm-hmm. They cognac babies. Night train babies. You see what I'm saying? Wild Irish Rose babies, right? I just got out of jail, baby. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? We look at one aspect. You know what I mean? I sold 12 keys, baby. You know what I mean? Like, we look at things the wrong way, right? This DNA piece is so huge. When I begin to look further into it and then apply spiritual wisdom, when I begin to look more into it, the one thing that I shared that with a bunch of people and that philosophy, but looking at where you are on that DNA code, you can put domestic violence, you can put suicidal thoughts, you see what I'm saying? The only way these things can grow is the planting of the seed. God was so amazing when he said, I'm going to give this seed to you. You're going to take this seed. You're going to insert this seed in this beautiful moon. That was just right? So you're going to place this seed in there, and then he's going to swim, find him a destination, land, and then life is going to be born. Now, wherever he's at, it's going to grow and grow and grow till it's time for it to come out. So, like, they talk about, like, bamboo, how bamboo has to go down in order to come out. Well, same thing. It has to go in order for it to come out, right? We think that the process is just, oh, you so important. You the only reason why this child get here. Like, you suddenly here's this child and it just showed up, and we had I was in Chicago, and I was part of a Judge Mathis show where the young man came in and he wanted to be the father to this child. And the co-worker had went through, and she just felt all along that he was the one. Well, my man come in on gangbusters like, yeah, right? But the process was they had one night. It was nothing else but that one night. He always liked her, but he had to move out, and he had other kids. And here was this kid. It was his.
Wow.
And I'm sitting up front. On the video, you can see me. I'm sitting up front, Good Father's Only shirt, everything. Like, wow, this would be the day that I come. But my point to that whole dynamic is life is such a beautiful creation. We make it trivial. We make it an act. Or people call it a sex act, or we make it that one moment. Well, that DNA, remember, that DNA is only going to be responsive to what you were. So if I loved you, there's a good chance I'm going to be here. But if you on the side, and I just came through, and you irresponsible, I don't know if I really care. So that child doesn't get that. And that's where, as parents and people, that's why that perspective is such a powerful perspective. And it's important that we really take a look at how we are procreating our children and put ourselves in a better place. But you're over 40, Janet Jackson had one at 50. So Janet Jackson had a baby, she was 50. My man, like, I want a baby with you, and he paid for it. Like, and she gave him the baby. Like, for real?
Paid for it.
Yeah. That was you ain't,
Wow.
you got to read the story.
Liabilities.
You got to read the story, right? You got to read the story. That was part of them getting together, getting married, whatever the case may be. She did get pregnant and have a baby. So, again, being older, I think one of the things that also comes with that is you don't want to be too old, right?
Amen.
You don't want to be too old. Now, I crack jokes all the time about, you being old as like, I wouldn't want a child right now at my age.
Oh, really?
I wouldn't, I crack jokes about it, but I wouldn't want a seed to come out. Can you imagine that child's hairline? The boy come out.
Don't do that.
Right?
You know Kyrie parents' age, right?
Yeah.
So don't do that.
Yeah, but Kyrie good right now. Kyrie good. His daddy got hair, he good. Mine, oh my God. I could only imagine, right? But
You're going to have wisdom.
He'd have wisdom.
hairline?
He'd come out talking.
He?
Yeah, it's got to be a boy. That's all we had. Them man boys, that's what we put out here. We got boys. We got a couple of girls, but we got boys. We produce boys. So other than that, I mean, the over 40 thing is really important for us to understand. Having patience is one of the biggest components to that message.
And so let me just add this, that in my research, I found that it said that 62% of kids under the age of 18 have parents over 40. 62% of the kids under 18 have parents that are over 40.
That's dope.
And I believe that was from 2017. That stat was from 2017.
That's dope.
It does seem like as the generations went on, people actually took time for themselves before they began to make a family per se. And then some people, they've gotten so far in creating a life that now they're at 35, 40 thinking they've ran out of time. And it's like, nope, you have time.
So the important pieces, though, is our health, our physical health, mental health, and then financial health. That was in that same study. It talked about how important those three dynamics are to older parents raising children at this age. And so they talked about some of the reasons why people over 40 were delaying having children. And
It
so,
depends.
what does that mean? You mean whether planned or unplanned? Is that what you mean?
Right, they rocking depends, right? Like, come here, girl.
You know what?
We go have a late. We gonna have a late. You got it right. So that whole piece that you're talking about,
No.
I just can't see
No.
a child like she said 45. Like, that
Hey,
was a miracle.
Don't turn your back on me.
That was a miracle. One of the guys from my area, his parents were in their 50s. My grandmother got the call, and he was their baby boy, and they was 55.
Yeah. I had a friend, her mother and father had her when her mother was 55 when she had her. And so she had a brother, she had all older brothers, and I think the brother that was closest to her age was at least 20 years.
Wow.
It was a 20-year difference.
Delayed, not denied, I mean.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, that was amazing to me.
Yeah.
It was amazing to me.
Where did
she
it
had
come
nieces,
from?
her nieces and nephews were her age. Yeah, that was amazing.
But I mean, imagine being healthy enough to
That
for a woman to carry a baby to term.
Right.
For a man to be able to
Yeah.
at 60 years old.
And her father was older.
It was
much
only
older
one.
than her mother.
He was like, poof.
Think it was going slow.
Monique,
He was
do
only
not
one.
feed into this. Do not feed into this, Monique.
Hey, just the mere
He had
fact
glasses.
that it happened.
He had glasses and a bow tie. We was talking about this the other day. He had glasses on and a bow tie. Swimming. Where is it at?
Distinguished.
Yeah. Full gentleman.
Amen.
So the financial security was a major issue amongst people in that age to make sure that they could afford to bring a child into the world, planning for college, planning for retirement, all of those kinds of things at the same time. They also talked about the ability to spend more time with your children. Mm-hmm. So as you're older, some of the things, not necessarily the things that you would do as a younger person, but things that you would do that brought more value to your child when you're older in life, like making sure they know how to read, and then going to museums and doing more cultural types of things to cultivate that child, to make sure that they had the best of what you had to offer, the best of life. And then one of the other areas was that people at that age had a greater appreciation for parenting. Not just bringing a child into the world, but like you talked about earlier, being able to take care of that child, being able to enjoy having a child, and some of the things that you might have been starting off, in your earlier years, trying to be stable in a job, trying to be stable, in your life and in your relationship, and by that time, you are pretty much stable, and you have a work history, you have a credit history, you have some of the things that need to be there as a seed for your child.
I would be interested to see the results of support systems, because I noticed having a child in the later stage, the support isn't there like it was when I was in my earlier stage. Mm-hmm. Like you don't have people, because everybody figure, oh, I'm done raising my children. I'm not, I don't have time to watch your child, or I don't do that anymore, type thing. So it's like a lot of the support that I recall when I had my daughters in my early 20s, it's not the same as having a child later in life, and it could just be the people that I'm around. And something you mentioned also in the survey about the appreciation for like arts and museums and things, I think some of that has to do with the people as individuals, because I've always had an interest in that. So pretty much the same things that I introduced my son to, my daughters had also been introduced to or had opportunities in. So it's just now even different. Again, a whole nother stage in life. A lot of the access isn't there for him. It's like the finances have dried up per se. Some of the programs don't exist. Just different factors in life. And it could be, of course, the region by which you stay. Some of that stuff just have went away. So
That's true. And another piece around the stability of people who are older, your mindset, your appreciation for life, your mindset around mental health, a lot of the stigmas that may have been in existence when you were in your 20s, it's a lot more open and available now. Even more, like when we were coming up, I didn't know any parents, same-sex parents, who may have adopted a child, and maybe both male, both female parents, as prevalent as it is today. Like it's very open today. It's a very, it's not an uncommon practice to see a child being raised by two of the same gender. You see it on TV, you see it everywhere. It's open and available. And in my earlier years, it wasn't something that was so available either. And so just kind of the timing, and then the things that our kids are being exposed to, technology, the level of technology that they're exposed to coming out of the womb. Like the kids who are 2 and 3 years old are teaching their 50-something parents how to use the remote control, how to live stream, how to connect on your phone. I that is still a wonder to me. How people just popped out of the womb and they turning a channel. They're on video games. Like I don't even know how to get into a video game. I don't know how to do live streaming on the TV. I still don't know how to do that. But my niece, Zara, who's 2 years old, can find the programs that she likes on the remote control and on the phone. Like, she knows where to go. I'm like, you're 2 years old. What are you doing?
Well, she got a young brother in the house.
Okay.
That's part of the help.
Okay.
He's very active, right? So he's a male. He's already in his bag as a male teaching. When we don't understand, just like I'm trying to explain, in that boy is a seed. The seed must be cultivated by a man. When a man cultivates the seed in the boy, that seed of fatherhood is already at stake. So he already knows to protect her. He already knows to teach her. He already knows to show her.
He does that.
He does that, right? Mm-hmm. He's been overly exposed. He's been in the program. Like, he got leadership. He got his dad. His dad got him, pick him up, do things with him. So when it come time for him and his little sister, although he didn't want it, he automatically went into his bag. Now,
his bag of skills.
His bag of skills, and being the head is. If you let it happen naturally, instead of you trying to tell him, "Hey, you gonna young black king, you gonna be, boy, you know," instead of putting the pressure on him, when you let him go through, he's going through it naturally. We have to be careful that we don't turn our sons into babysitters and reduce them. Mm-hmm. That's what we don't want to do. We don't want to turn him into a babysitter and reduce him. So when it's time for him to go do his things, he can't go. I've seen that 100 times. Mm-hmm. He needs to go do something for himself. He can't go do it. Why? Because he got to babysit and he got to watch. And so his dreams, his goals, all of that take a hit. And all he hears is, "Didn't I buy you? Didn't I get you?" And so I've seen that easily 1,000 times, where the boy is the babysitter. And I've seen it happen to girls too, where she's the babysitter. They become responsible for that, and then all of a sudden they fall into a parenting mindset, mm-hmm. And then it's hard to get them to pursue anything else other than. So that's why he's like that. There are a number of kids like that. I mean, you hear Kyrie at the program always speaking up to protect somebody.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He already, hey, no, he look out for a bunch of them. And he see them getting ready to fail or come up short, he gonna yell out the word. You see? So because he knows and how he's secure and how he has two parents and how that being taught comes to him and sharing because of the wisdom naturally. I just think that that's where we need to be in shaping and growing our kids, is thinking wisdom and not always pulling and dragging them and taking them from here to there. Guide them and teach them.
And so I know we have a few minutes left before we kind of wrap up the show, but I want to talk about, we always try to end our show with solutions. So now let's look at what's next steps for parents over 40 raising kids under 18. What's next?
Reading. Reading is life. There's the message we heard this morning. Said the slave owner didn't want you could teach the slave anything other than teach them how to read. All right? Teach them everything, but don't teach them how to read. Why? Because you teach them how to read, they take off. They begin to fly. All of a sudden, I can read, I know that, I can see that. So literacy, off the bell. Any parent that's having a kid should start teaching them kids, shaping words, the whole nine, immediately. Don't wait till that child is 5 and just decide, well, I'm going to teach them how to read. No. Spend the time, take the time, teach them words, teach them definitions, how to comprehend, all of that. Do that early as much as possible, because then they can think for themselves when they see themselves and they're out. That's a strength. When you take that away from a kid, they are very reactive in classrooms. They're very they act out to protect themselves because they know that they can't read, or they do things like, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I know that, but they do that, because there are things where they didn't think, and they weren't taught to really think that way. So literacy is a solution for me, for any parent. I believe that's where you should go first.
And so I just wanted to also add, Calvin, as you're speaking of reading, that it doesn't mean that it's too late. It doesn't matter how old your child is. You can start right there. I'm so big on the redemptive fact in parenting, that wherever we are, start there. You have a reset today. Start today. Start asking, showing, demonstrating, but also recognize that your children are going to mimic what you do and what you say. They're listening all the time. So if you're telling them to read and you don't read, you're setting that example for them, not having reading be important. And so make sure that as you're asking them to do something, that you give them something positive to model. So put positive men in front of boys to read, put positive women in front of girls to read. I agree that that's such an important process, because it allows you to find answers on your own. You can Google it. You can look at it in a dictionary. You can look at it at other places. You can read labels. You can read directions. You can read instructions. That's a key component of parenting, making sure our kids have the basic fundamentals, and reading is one of them. But again, the redemptive part of reading is that you don't have to deny yourself reading. If you don't feel like you're a strong meat reader, improve it. And there are programs. I was telling Calvin that one of the ones I invested in is Khan Academy. It's free, and it's for both kids and adults. It's not limited to just kids. So don't think that those tools and resources are not available for adults as well. So yes, another redemptive piece that we can reclaim as parents for not only our children, but for ourselves. Latrice, what do you think?
Solution.
I think one of my biggest thing is, don't limit your child. Don't put them in a box. It's okay to be there to guide and protect them, but watch them explore. Watch how they move. That teaches you a lot about your child. Especially in the system, like the school system. Everybody doesn't learn one way. See your child's learning style and adapt to that. And learning shouldn't just be put into the system. Teach and learn at home. It's like, your child shouldn't have to surpass you just because you're not in school. Learn together. Interact. Make it important. It's like, and don't be ashamed if you don't know something. There's, like you said, there's people, there's ways, there's programs out there to get help. But at the end of the day, learn with your child. Move with your child. Don't be lost, but don't limit them either. Don't put them in a box. Cultivate who they are, because they are individuals. Though they came from you, they have their own personality and way of growing and learning. So it's like, cultivate that and move along with them. Don't stifle them.
That's awesome. Calvin, any other thoughts about the wisdom of parenting that we can leave, that leaves a solution, an indelible solution? Thank you for that, Latrice, because that is huge, to be able to recognize especially if you have more than one child, to recognize the differences between them, and not be so committed to making them the same person, whether it's male or female, making them the same person. And we have to really be aware and conscious of that. I want you to be X, therefore everything I do is about X, and you're trying to make somebody a engineer when they're really a nurse.
Right.
How do you pay attention to the signs? So maybe that's one of the things we could talk about with solutions as well. How do you recognize the signs? Sometimes it's just stepping back, like you mentioned, Latrice, and watch. Step back and look at it. Well, yeah, but I need for you to be an engineer. I need for you to be a doctor. I need for you to be, the big three, I call them, the doctors, attorneys, and engineers. The big three. That's what we want our kids to become. But there's so much other opportunity out there based on their unique gifts, talents, and understanding. How do we cultivate that?
And expose them to it.
Expose them.
Yeah.
Yes, as a matter of fact. We should, and I also suggest that with our kids, that I know kind of the baby books have been a little bit outdated for a lot of people. But I think it's important that we are able to track those things. So some people journal, some people still use baby books. We need to track those things. How easily did they learn to walk or tie their shoes, or what kind of artwork did they bring home? What interests did they have at a certain age? Being able to monitor that. And then the second thing I want to talk about in terms of monitoring our kids, watching them, watching who they're becoming, is also paying attention to their growth rates.
Yes.
So, and this is another piece that Calvin often talks about, is that some behaviors stunt the growth of your children. Mm-hmm. Like, they are small for their size, they have small appetites, they're easily injured. When we start thinking about those things, we have to make sure that there's something more to that. How do we help them stay healthy? The vitamins and also the activity. If they are constantly involved in sedentary activities where they're sitting all the time behind a screen or a video game or computer games, if they're sitting all the time, they're not getting the vitamin D that they need to help their bodies be stronger. They need more sunlight. They need to be outside. And looking at, because we're in the beautiful state of Michigan, we have lots of things to do for every season. So that's an important piece. Get them involved, make sure that they're having enough sunlight, make sure they have the vitamins and minerals that they need for their bodies to grow and their minds to grow. Expose them to outdoor activities and community activities and what it means to be a member of the community. Volunteer, community service, all of these are ways to help cultivate your children. Go ahead, I know you want to say.
No, it's I think the main solution as we close this out, Heather, you want to tell them where they can meet you at?
Yes, absolutely. You can visit my website at yourinspiredjourney.com. You can reach out to me by phone at 313-759-7855. That's for questions. Set up a coaching session as well, and let's chat.
Awesome. Latrice, you want anybody to find you?
No. Y'all trying to put me out there, though. But, you can find me at EMIY.
So
go through my brother.
So I think one of the biggest solutions we need to give our children is love, and I say that, I mean love in making them, love in teaching them, love in guiding them, love in nurturing them, love and disciplining them. I think it's love that we have to give our children. Too many children are not made of love. I think our children deserve both parents in the home. Marriage. I think our children deserve to just give them as much love as you possibly can. And you got to understand that when you don't, it's tough. It's very, very tough. And that's a personal experience when the kids are not, it becomes tough because kids have questions. Why you didn't? And Dad, why you that? And why you that? And, and that's me on my own personal journey. But one of the things that I'm clear about is love. Allowing your children to see you love each other in front of them. That's huge. If you in the house with your kid and they don't see mom and dad kiss, that's a problem. If you are co-parenting and they don't see you two agree, that's a problem, right? If you are always at war and one parent don't talk to the other parent and you are continuing the division on the child. That's tough. So that would be my thing. I suggest that we love better in front of our children, as well as when we make them. Love them in the making process. Love making more than drive-bys and shoot up the club, all that crazy stuff. I think we need more of that. That's a solution. Make love, not war, not fight. Stay out of the divorce court. The divorce is the devil. I'm telling you that from personal experience.
For some people, marriage is the devil.
Yeah, some people's marriage is the devil. And some people overcome that part of the relationship and live forever.
Amen.
And stay together forever. So with that being said, my name is Kelvin Mann. God bless you. We're mentoring, so if you need mentoring, look us up at emmyworld.com. Encourage me. I'm young. Peace.
Yeah.